Hey, friends, and thank you for joining us for today's Talk for Your Walk with Bridget Lynch. This is episode 86. I cannot believe we are so close to 100 episodes, and I'm super excited to have my friend Kate here. We have met through a community that is so fun, and just getting to know her has been so great the last couple of months. We feel like we've known each other forever. She has her company and community called Journey Beyond Betrayal, and she is the one that's going to tell you more about that. And we're going to have a great conversation today. So hold on tight and we will be right back. We are so glad you're here today. And again, we are here with our friend Kate. And so I want her to introduce herself to you. And that way you'll know why I love her so much. So Kate, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me. This is going to be lots of fun. I started a community called Journey Beyond Betrayal, and it is a community to encourage, educate, equip, and empower women as they walk the journey beyond the betrayal of marital infidelity and find healing.
Oh, that is definitely a place that needs someone to guide people. And I know that that can happen with men and women. Is it primarily women that you have in your community?
Yeah. Yes, it's only women. I should have
Great.
clarified that, but yeah, it's only women. Obviously, I'm a woman, and I've experienced infidelity in my marriage, and so I wanted to support other women on the journey. And yes, it does happen. It's not like only men are the ones that are unfaithful, but I'm just serving women.
Absolutely. That's what God's called you to do. And I totally understand that, because in my niche, I do the same thing. I focus on women that have that are overcoming trauma and abuse. And so I get that because I'm a woman and I want to help women. And that's what God's called me to. And so I love that. And tell me a little bit about yourself. Are you married? Still married?
Yeah, I am still married. We've been married
Okay.
now 15 years, and we have two boys. They are now 9 and 11, and we live just outside of Dallas, Texas. We've lived here for the last about year and a half, but spent most of my life in the Northwest. Grew up in Portland, went to school at the University of Washington, and lived a little bit in Auburn, Alabama, and kind of been all over the place. So we we are still married. The infidelity happened 5 years in, and then the discovery of the infidelity happened 5 years into the marriage. And then we kind of each pursued our own healing, and then eventually came back together, and we're still married. It's a miracle. It's a miraculous, like only by the grace of God. But I'm glad that we are able to raise our kids together.
I love that, because oftentimes that's not the case. Oftentimes people do divorce, they do split. And then so not only on top of, the divorce, do the children eventually probably find out about the infidelity, but then they're living a life that's separate from mom and, that's different. And so I applaud you both for, I heard you say he healed and I healed, and then we came back together. And so I want you to talk about that a little bit, because that is really important, to focus on yourself and then coming back together.
Yeah, I mean that's the way we did it. I think that's the best way. But
Sure.
everybody, as long as they're pursuing healing. I didn't know if I wanted to be married still when I found out about it. It was just, I mean, basically destroyed like my normal life, I guess,
Mhm.
in that time. And I didn't know immediately if I wanted to be married to him anymore, but I pretty quickly realized, like, I am going to be stuck with myself, whether or not I and decide to be stuck with him for the rest of my life. But I wanted to be healed, because there was no doubt that this was a traumatic experience. And it's
Mhm.
the worst thing I've gone through in my entire life. It's the biggest trauma I've experienced. And so I recognized, kind of, okay, this is a huge pain. It's a deep pain. Like, I'm not even functional right now. We only had one son at that time, and he was 1. And I knew I wanted to be able to be the best I could be for him and for myself, and any future relationship I was going to be in, whether that was with my husband or with in a different marriage. And so I kind of just pursued, like, what do I need to do so that I can heal from this. And that he pretty quickly, which is I would say now, like learning about this, it's pretty uncommon that a man will pursue their own healing as quickly as my husband did. He was just like immediately, once he got caught, it was like a relief to him, kind of. He that's how he explains it. Like, I didn't want to be doing this. This was not the life I wanted. This was not who I wanted to be. And he kind of had these two different like lives, I guess. And his secret life had now been made public. And he was like, I'm done with that. So he quickly pursued his own healing. And then and the people who were kind of helping walk him together, eventually the counseling he got, they ended up counseling both of us when they thought we were ready for it.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, there's so many good things in there. I love that your husband recognized, that, hey, I need to fix this. This is not okay. And especially, him wanting to move forward in a relationship. And you think about it, you had a 1-year-old at the time, you said. And so really, and it's hard to say this sometimes, but, a lot of times people say, that it's the stigma of, oh, if you have a child, you can't do certain things or you can't go certain places or whatever. But I know that you could probably relate to this as well, Kate, that in my scenario, whenever I was coming out of my first marriage, which was the abusive part, I had my son and I had something that I had to go, oh no, this has got to get better. I can't keep going like this. I can't do this and expect this to be a life that my son is okay with or that I'm okay with my son having. And so talk a little bit about that, about, your kid kind of being a motivator, really probably for both of you.
Yeah. I mean, he was like, the blessing was he was young. So we were just talking the other night, like, how are we going to tell our kids when we tell them? Because they still they don't know the story at all. Sure. And so but he was young. I mean, like I knew when I was really in the most painful time, like I could hardly take care of him. Like I could hardly take care of myself. And the blessing of my story is the people that surrounded us, because I essentially like left where we were living, flew back to where we were in Alabama. We had only been back in the Northwest like a month, and went back to my community there. And some women just wrapped around us and took care of us, and essentially took care of my son when I couldn't, and took care of me when I couldn't, and helped us get through that. And it was like, obviously this is a blessing and a temporary situation, but I can't sit in this like a puddle of tears on the floor forever. Like I have to eventually get up, because he's so young. Like he needed so much of me at that time, that I was glad to have the time where I could kind of step back and just have other people take care of him, and him not really even be aware of it. Like he was still having a great time, and they took great care of him and me, but I needed to like not stay there forever. And so I think he was a motivating factor as far as like, okay, how can I need to be a mom to him, and how am I going to behave if I just don't deal with this? And ultimately, I mean, he was the instigating factor for staying in my marriage, because it's like, well, he's one, I'm stuck with this man for the next 17 years. Like that sounds terrible, but I mean, like in the beginning, it was like, I'm going to have to deal with him. And that's not a good enough reason necessarily. I mean, for me, it wasn't a good enough reason to stay forever, but it was at least a good enough reason to try to stay married, because there's so many, a household with a mother and a father in it is so much better for kids if it's possible. And I wanted that for him. And so I think he ultimately is the reason. I don't know if I mean, to be honest, I don't know what I would have done if we if we didn't have a kid, like, but that's, that's that we did, and we're together. And I mean, I don't regret that. I didn't stay because of him. He just kind of helped motivate the initial, like, okay, I'll consider this.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to hit back on the fact that you talked about the community that surrounded you. I mean, we can both talk about community for a long time, I'm sure, but I want you to talk about that, because that is what you're doing now. Like you are helping other women come into a community and know that they will also receive arms wrapped around them. They may be virtual, they might not be physical, but that
Yeah.
you are linking hands and arms with them and you are helping them on their journey. And I want you to talk about that because community is so important to our healing process.
Yeah, I absolutely. I almost feel like for me, I just need I love community. It's like my life is so much better because of it, whether that's like in the community I'm providing or just generally in life. And so when I had people, now they hadn't experienced infidelity but they were willing, they were not, I shared with them what happened to us, and I essentially said, hey, I can't take care of myself. Can you take care of us? And these three, there was 3 or 4 women in particular that were like, yeah, come on, and one of them was, or 3 of them actually were clients of mine. I was a personal trainer at the time, and they were a bit older than me, had adult-ish kids or teenagers. So they had a little bit more capacity to take care of me. And then my best friend from Alabama who had no kids. And so they all just kind of fed me. When I lived with one of them, I was staying in her house. She called Riker her boyfriend. Her husband had passed away like a year or 2 before this, and so she had always joked that Riker was her boyfriend. That's my son, sorry, my older son at the time, so my 1-year-old. And that she was like more than willing to spend time with him.
Yeah.
And then they just cared for me and let me grieve and let me cry and let me kind of sit in the emotion in the very beginning, because this was the very, very beginning of my healing process. So I wasn't necessarily pursuing like healing, but I think the first stage of healing is really just allowing yourself to feel the emotions and not skip over them, and just like sit, as hard as it is, just to like sit in the sadness and just be like, why, and I'm angry and all of that. And they allowed me to do that. And because I could just do that, I think it was like a 2-week period, I could just essentially focus on whatever I needed without any distraction. I didn't have I just took off from any responsibility I had. And so I think that expedited my healing process, because I could just do it like without distraction, which not everybody can do that.
Right.
But I think that's part of how I was able to like move through healing more quickly, because 1, I pursued it immediately, and 2, I had a community that just allowed me to not do anything but heal, which is really rare. I don't know that there was another period of my life where I could have had even that opportunity. And that's where it's like God knows what he's doing, right? He knew that at that moment I could just pick up from, we had a job we were doing together, and I just like told my husband he's going to have to take care of it. And obviously he wasn't in a place to say, no, I'm not. And I just left all my responsibility, and just dove into like, I guess, feeling terrible and grieving. And then, okay, I'm ready to, I think by the time I left, I had already ordered some books about like, how do I get through this?
That's so great. And, and I think that, that comes a lot with someone's personality too. I think that you have the type of personality that would look at a situation and go, I've got to get over this. Like, this is not where I want to stay. And I can relate to that because I was the same way whenever I came out of the trauma and abuse that I experienced. I was like, there's no way I am staying in this and sitting in this. Like, I need to get over this. I have to get through it. And in a way, it can be a kickstart to your healing, but in another sense, it can kind of maybe cocoon that and put it to the side and then move forward. I mean, there's so many different scenarios that we can kind of look at with that, but I think that that's your personality, and I kind of want to hit on that a little bit because I think that really you're just such a motivated, consistent, determined person. And what you guys haven't heard from Kate yet is that she's truly an athlete, not just a personal trainer. Like, she's truly an athlete. And I think a lot of things stem from, you know, how we've been raised and then what we've done in our lives and then how we get over things and pursue healing on our journey. And so, Kate, talk a little bit about that, because I think that our listeners kind of need to hear that from you.
Yeah, in my past life, um, you know, the first half or more even of my life, now I'm about to turn 40. But you know, for the first 25 years of my life, I was an athlete. I was like a high level gymnast at a very young age. And then I began pole vaulting in high school, which my senior year won a state championship. I earned a scholarship to the University of Washington for that, where I went on to like I was the Pac-10 champion, I was a national champion, and then was able to compete at the Olympic trials on 2 different times, in 2004 and 2008, and as a pole vaulter. So the idea that I like of hard work and you know, like rolling your sleeves up and doing something hard wasn't new to me. And that obviously helps just my general personality, like you said, like I'm going to do the hard things. I'm not going to shy away from something just because it feels impossible. Doesn't mean it's easy.
Right.
But I'm used to, you know, kind of like putting my head down and being able to like, just, okay, this is what I want. Like, this is my vision. I'm going after it. And, I don't know that I necessarily, like looking back, I can see that now. I don't know that I was like in the mindset of at the time, like, oh, I'm just like, I can do this because like I've done that, you know, but you know, you can hindsight, I can see that obviously it helped. And just my personality of like, okay, like, we're going to do something about this. Like if I don't like something, I'm going to change it. And what do I need to do? And I mean, to kind of say what you were saying before, you don't want to skip over it. Like, it's not like I want to take this and put it in a box and then just say, okay, I'm done. Now I'm moving. Like, that doesn't actually heal you, right? It's like, I sat in those emotions like for 24 hours a day. I mean, you know, for 2 weeks and even after that, right? Like, and there was a little bit of time before that even. You can't just say, okay, I want to move forward, so I'm just going to put this in a box and forget about it, because that's not healing either. And I think that's what happens a lot with infidelity. And I'm sure with like, you know, abuse and trauma that you've experienced, it's like, okay, well, I'm out of the situation. Like maybe I'm not married anymore. So now I'm like, I'm healed.
Yeah. Right.
No, you're not. Like,
yeah. That would be the mentality. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. I put it in this box. It's over. It's behind me. Like, move on. And that would be great. I wish that were true. But I had to, you know, you have to do the hard work to address it too. And not just put it in a box and move on. But
yeah, no doubt. Yeah. So whenever, you know, I've done studies on different things and scenarios of course, of difficulties and then coming out of them and how you heal out of it. Right. And so I've read books like Crushing by T.D. Jakes, and he talks about grapes and olive oils and how do you get what's in the goodness that's inside of it is you have to crush it to get the goodness inside of it. And sometimes we go through those situations and those circumstances and it's crushing and it's so debilitating sometimes, but then we know that there's goodness that's going to come out of it, because God doesn't want to leave us in our mess, right? He wants to transition that into the message that he wants to speak through us. And I love that God does that. And so going back to, you know, you being athletic person, and I love that about you because I am as well. I love working out. I love taking care of myself. We got to take care of our temples, right? But I love what you started doing recently. So talk a little bit about the workout wisdom that you're doing and what inspired that.
Yeah, so because the community just launched, I'm trying to spread the word about getting, you know, so because women don't always know that this is even available. There are some other options as well, but what motivated this was when I was going through my healing process, I tried like one local community group and it didn't work for me. And so it was like, okay, so I'm trying to get the word out. So I'm on social media because that's how you get the word out these days, and trying to figure out like, well, what is my messaging? And one day, I mean, it was probably like more than just one day. Like I would just be in my workout and like thinking something and I'm like, oh man, like this totally relates to like healing from infidelity. Like it was just, I think it was like probably when something was really hard and I was just like, oh my gosh, this is like so hard. I don't want to do this, and it's like, that's exactly like how you can feel like,
Mhm.
this is really hard. Like, I can't do this. You tell yourself like, I can't do it. I can't do it. But you're like, you really can. You just have to like, just keep pushing through. And so I was like, oh, I could use like these things and of what I've learned as an athlete, or am like thinking during my workouts, or realizing during my workouts, and share it as it
Mhm.
relates to moving beyond betrayal.
Yeah.
Because there is, the mindset and just it's amazing. When I started, I was like, oh, this will be like 3 or 4 videos probably I'll do. And now I'm on 5, and I still have a list of like 10 more. And then like, you never know when something will pop. Like I keep getting more of them because I go to the gym, 4 to 5 times a week. And so I'm like, okay, I don't know how long this series is going to last, but I do like it kind of connects 2 pieces of my life, because
Mhm.
I have my history is in fitness and coaching and personal training. And then this is a totally new venture that I'm doing. And
Right.
it's like, there's skills and tools that I have from one that can help with the other. And that's what I'm starting to like try to appreciate too, is like all the ways that God has prepared me with different things things I've done in the past, where it's like, oh, well, this helps, you kind of start to connect the pieces of like all the little assignments that God has given you, or situations or people that are preparing you for, maybe this is what I think is my purpose right now.
Mhm.
And so it's been cool to kind of connect it and see like, oh, the way he designed me as this go-getter, like, can help other women kind of be more confident in pursuing their own healing, and
Yes.
aggressive and understanding it. So that's
Yes, I
been
love
fun.
that. I love how, really God does prepare us in ways that we can't see sometimes, when we're going through our own journey. And I love just the idea of, you may just be a few steps ahead of someone else. And that idea of just grabbing them and pulling them up either to where you are or propelling them forward further, right? In their healing and what God wants to do in their life. And so I love all of this. Again, just, hearing you and you overcoming and really still being on your healing journey. I just said this recently, like, I am not totally healed. Like, we're going to be healed and whole when we're in heaven, right? There are
Mm-hmm.
things that we are still operating out of and trying to overcome, because it doesn't just happen overnight that it goes away, right? And so it takes a
Yeah.
lot of work. We have to be determined. We have to be focused. And I know those are words that some people hear and they're like, I don't want to be determined or focused. Like, I just want to, I think about, like, am I a pig that just wants to sit in the stuff? Or am I like, am I really wanting to get clean and get out of the funk that's been on my life for so long? Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you look at it that way and go, okay, and then we look at our purpose, our purpose is not to sit in the stuff that happened to us. It's to overcome and heal so that we can help other people. That's why we
Mm-hmm.
overcome the things that we face and the things that we deal with. Does anyone want to face it? Does anyone expect these things? No. But it's our job to go, you know what, God, why is this, not why is it happening? What do you want me to learn from this? And
Mm-hmm.
what do you want me to do from it, since I'm healing from it? And I
Yeah.
think that both of us have come to a place. And it's funny how Kate and I talk about this, you guys. Like, we talk about how so much of our lives relate to one another and how we are healing from things that we've overcome. And it's just incredible that God aligns and divinely inserts people into your life that you can connect with. And you feel like you've known each other for so long, because you're like, how do we have all this in common? And I just love when God does that. So what
Yeah.
else would you want to add to our conversation for the listeners?
Oh, well, while you were just saying that, I think what I was thinking actually came up in our group meeting, I guess 2 days ago. And it's like, oh, we're strong, we can push through this, and the resilience, and that is true. And that's what we think of, like, oh, this is my healing. I'm going to be strong. I'm going to come out stronger on the other side, right? And that is absolutely true. There's no arguing that. But I think often we think of it just as like a strength, when
Hmm.
when often, like, it's also a softening. And that was one thing that one of the members was just like, I don't want to be strong anymore. Like, I don't want to be strong. Like, I just want, to sit and read a book. And I was like, but do you think that part of your development through this could be acknowledging that side of you? Because when you can be someone like myself or you, like that, we are like so resilient and like willing to do the hard things. But what I gained from like walking the journey beyond my husband's affair was a softness and like a compassion and for other people. Because when you've been through something that difficult, your view of the world changes.
Right.
And so for me, it was like it was this softening of like, okay, I have more compassion for myself, for others, instead of thinking like I have to do this on my own. It was, I mean, you cannot,
Right.
I could not have done that on my own. I don't know how people don't share this with people. There's so many women that won't share it. And I mean, I'm like, oh my gosh, how do those people do it? How do they do it? And that's what the community is for, right? So you don't have to do it, and you don't have to share. Like in a digital community, like you're probably not going to interact with us most likely out, so that's the safety of an online community too, is like there's a lot of anonymity, but like it doesn't have to be the strength in the typical ways that you imagine it, whatever, while you're walking through, you're gonna be able to become the best version of you. You're being sharpened into a better version of you through an adversity, but that doesn't necessarily mean, oh, I'm gonna be like strong. Like maybe you actually need to be softer,
like you said.
Yeah. And so and it depends on the person, right? Because but for me, that was that. And when she said that, I was like, maybe that's part of your journey, is a softening and like being comfortable not doing, not always striving, not always like making sure everybody else is taken care of, but learning how to take care of yourself.
Right.
And people like me can forget to take care of, and that was something I learned, and so it's like I don't want to get stuck in people thinking like, oh, I'm going to be stronger. It's like that, yes, but not necessarily. Like it looks different for different people. So
no, that's good. And, and let me carry on that point just a little bit further and let you guys know that you need to have the word of grief in your vocabulary, and not just for someone that like a loved one that you lost. Because whenever you go through infidelity, any kind of betrayal, trauma, abuse, any kind of an emotional abuse as well, anytime you go through things like that, you have to grieve. You have to have a period of grief of the things that you lost. And so in Kate's case, she would probably say, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you lost what relationship you thought you had. You lost that. And so you had to grieve that. Wow. How fortunate were you to be able to literally like sit in it. There's a term in Hebrew called sitting Shiva, where you just sit and you mourn the loss of what was, and then you pick yourself up on day 8, and in your case, it was 14, whatever it takes, guys, it doesn't matter, right? Like when you do lose a loved one, there are services that will give you a 13-month grieving process or period, because they know that you're going to hit every holiday and every moment and every birthday and everything in that 13 months that you had with that loss of that loved one. But if you think of it in terms of your relationships and things like that, your job is a loss, and that can be a trauma. Your relationship loss could be a trauma. All of these things we have to look at, and we have to have that grief vocabulary in our process of healing, because grief is actually a gift. We are gifted that grief so that we can process through the things that we've lost and then be better on the other side for what's to come. Because if you do put it in a box, like we've said, and you shift it to the side and you don't deal with it, you're going to be hurting even more down the road when you actually have to open that up and deal with it. And so, we encourage you to take the time to heal properly by grieving the loss, and then,
Mhm.
talking to trusted counsel, talking to people that, coming into people, whether it's physically or virtually, into a community that will love on you and help you and support you. Kate, this has been so great. Oh my goodness. And I know this has been so good for our listeners. You have anything else that you want to add? Because I know whenever I talk and then you want to talk, and then we just go back and forth, guys. We could be here forever, but we're going to try
Yes.
not to be here forever. But yeah, this has just been so good. And I know it's going to help so many people.
Yeah, and I know it can be scary. I think a lot of times we think it's like not scary, like but like it's hard, right? It's hard to open yourself up like that. And I think that's why so many women don't share it. They don't know how, or they don't feel comfortable or safe. But there's power in just sharing your story and share and bringing something into the light and doing it in a way that is for your own healing. Like the way we shared our story, like my husband shared with a lot of people, so I didn't have to deal with like, well, I can't tell anyone, where some people do, but there's power in just sharing it with people who understand. And I think that's what both of our communities do, is like you can come into this community where you don't have to explain it. You don't have to explain, oh well, like we all understand. And everybody's story is different, but we can empathize with those feelings and the days that you have, like when you're talking and it's like, oh yeah, me too. Like I remember that, or like I've been there, or I am there. And when you can know that you're not alone, and not just like know it like in your head, but like really feel it with your heart, there's such power in that. And I think it's important, for me at least, that's what I wanted, and that's why I created this community, is I don't want anyone to walk through this alone, because that's so hard. It's hard. But then if you have sisters alongside of you, they're going to pick you up when you can't. And I mean, and that's what like me and you are for each other with what we're doing. It's like there's days that we're like, I can't do this. This is so hard. I don't want to keep going, and it's like, that's when you need your sister to come alongside of you and be like, nope, I'm praying for you. Like, you can do this. I'm here. Like, have your day, have your hard day, and like binge Netflix and do whatever you need to do so that like you can get back to it. And you need those people around you that are going to encourage you to keep going, because and just, but also understand, and can come at it with like a compassion of like where you're at, because when you haven't experienced it, people can try to support you, but sometimes they say like the stupidest things. And and not that I'm like immune from saying stupid things, because I've been there. I'm sure I say, but it's like, I'm not gonna, and there's a less likely chance that I'm gonna when I then and so I think it's just the value of community is so much. The enemy wants to isolate us, because then you're like, nobody could understand, nobody has, and it's like, nope. There's, unfortunately, with this, there's 13 million other women in the United States who can understand this. And so
that's a really big boat.
Just get connected with someone, and that's on the low side,
right?
There's probably twice that. So because of all those people that aren't saying anything about it.
I loved so many things that you said, especially about bringing things into light. The enemy wants to keep things in the darkness. He doesn't want you to reveal them. He doesn't want you talking about what happened to you, because if he can get you to think that no one wants to listen to you, sharing it's only going to hurt. Well, out of that hurt is where the healing comes. And so you have to be able and be willing to share it. And I know it's hard. Trust me, it's hard. I went through years of not being able to talk about what happened to me and talk about my story. But I knew that if I didn't, that it would just continue, that root of the trauma and things would just continue to fester and build in my heart. And I didn't want that to happen. I wanted healing from it. And I should have jotted down, there was something that you said that I was like, yes, but now of course it's left my brain, but that's okay. It happens. So I just, again, yeah, walking through the journey with people, helping people. I want you to tell them, what you're offering in your community, because we're talking about being in a community and they're like, virtual community. What is that like? What does that look like? And so
Yeah.
what does yours look like for you?
So right now, there are 2 nights a week that or two times each week we get together. One is just a general meeting where we talk about a struggle, a celebration, and then a goal that we have
Right.
for that week. And so we're kind of sharing each week those same things. And then I come with a few other questions that we discuss as well. And then we're reading through a book called Post-Infidelity Stress Disorder, the 6 stages of, or Transcending Post-Infidelity Stress Disorder, the 6 stages of healing. And so by the time this comes out, we may be done with that book, but it's a really powerful book. And we just discuss what we've read and the insights that we've gained. And there's some questions inside of that book that we're discussing. And then we have online message boards where people can write and ask questions and share resources. And then as we're moving forward, actually, by the time this comes out, there should be the first resource in the community, which will be on mindset and retraining your brain. I have the title written down and it's still in the works, but kind of just tools to help you because you feel like you're losing your mind and you're kind of like, your thoughts can be all over the place.
Yeah.
And so kind of taking control of your thoughts and taking your thoughts captive and then moving forward, replacing truth with lies replacing lies with truth.
We got it. Good.
Let's be clear. You believe a lot of lies. So all that kind of stuff is the first course that I'm working on. And the vision is that there'll be many courses so that women can access them 24/7, because as you know, when you're walking through trauma, it might be 2 a.m. that you need that.
Sure.
And I'm not available at 2 a.m, but
Yeah.
I want something to be available. So right now, that course is in the works, and it should be in the community by the time this podcast launches. And so we just connect. I mean, it's just a time to connect. We also have a monthly Q&A with an expert. This month, we're having someone come in and talk about grief, actually, and not getting stuck in the whirlpool of grief that comes along with your journey. And so, yeah, right now, I mean, it's ridiculously low priced. It's $25 a month for the first 20 members. So there are still some spots available right now. There may be or may not be. We can,
Right.
The price may be $49 by the time you see this, but right now it's half off, $25 for the first 20 founding members. And I mean, come on, that is crazy low price.
Yeah. And friends, whether you get in at 25 or 49, this still is a valuable place to be. And I can tell you just from knowing Kate the last several months that she's phenomenal. She's just a great person to connect with. And I know that she is passionate about what she's doing. I know that God wants her to do this. I mean, this is just incredible. So we will be linking her site in the show notes, and I know that she's got a freebie on her site, so we'll be linking that for you as well. Kate, but in the recording, let's go ahead and tell them where they can find you.
Yeah, journeybeyondbetrayal.com is where you can find me. And then for that freebie, you just add a / and the words freebie in front of it. And to learn, there's a link to the community on the main webpage, but if you want to just go directly to more information about the community, you can go journeybeyondbetrayal.com / founder. And that is where you get that amazing $25 a month or $250 a year to join the community at
Fantastic. So would you, if someone's hearing this later, but it's from the podcast, would you offer that coupon if they hear that?
Yes,
let's make that clear. We don't want them to come and be like, but you said
it was $25. Let's just say not forever.
Yes.
But through the end of January.
Perfect.
Then you can access for sure. You know, it's until the first 20 members, but for your community, if you hear this and the community is already full, get in touch with me before the end of January.
Awesome. And so guys, don't miss out on that. So listen, I know you may be listening to this show and you're like, yeah, I actually have had that happen to me and I've never talked to someone. please find Kate with the link in the show notes and go into her community. You're going to be so glad that you did. She's going to help you along your journey, and it's going to be great because you're going to be with other women that can speak into your life and help you as well. And so, Kate, again, I'm just so grateful for you and so glad that you've been here with us. And thank you again. And tell them again what your socials are.
On Instagram, it's at Journey Beyond Betrayal. So just like you would think. And then same thing, facebook.com/Journey Beyond Betrayal.
Fantastic. And so find her, follow her, get on her email list, sign up for her freebie, get into her community, do all the things, because you're going to want Kate to be your friend too. And so, guys, we thank you so much for being here. And we are grateful that we are able to just provide hope and encouragement and help you to see God more clearly in your own life, because that's what we're here to do. We're here to love on you and to point you towards God, because he is our light, and we want your healing to be whole and full. This side is of heaven as much as it can be. And I look forward to talking to you again. Thank you so much, Kate, for being here, and we'll talk to you guys soon.